21 pages, and it basically goes into how these extremists online are hijacking religious affirmation. The phrase Christ is King has been systematically co-opted by extremist figures, for which they mention a handful of people you know and love. The first thing they mention is the usage of Christ as King as a phrase, and they're claiming that the expanded use of it is meant as, and I'll paraphrase, the criticism of the phrase, of the use of Christ as King, not the phrase itself, is that it's being used by anti-Semites to insult Jews. Basically, whenever someone is, perceived as quote unquote Jew by the Jewanon people or whatever, or someone is in any way defensive of something that people determine to be like Israeli or whatever, you'll get a response from someone saying Christ is King, to which many people have come on and said, aha, you don't really mean it. You're using that to attack people you perceive as pro-Israel, pro-Jewish, whatever it may be. They mentioned Jack Posobiec in 21, saying Christ is King twice. Jack Posobiec had one of the most, he authored the phrase, amassing a combined 34,000 likes. Posobiec, while known as sometimes polarizing in American discourse, nevertheless used the phrase in its original apolitical context. His posts, while reflective of his broader conservative views, were semantically neutral and devoid of bigotry. They likely represented a historic, normative use of the Christian phrase. Well, there you go, Jack. They're saying, yeah, I guess.
There's this video or report that gets listed by this white paper group, and they've conducted a research report into the phrase Christ is King. And what does the phrase Christ is King mean? What do they really mean when they're saying Christ is King? And I got a little clue for you. We're saying that the King of the universe is Jesus Christ. We're saying Christ is King. We're saying Viva Cristo Rey, Ave Christus Rex, Vivat Christus Rex, Vivat Jesus. Like these are the phrase Christ is King is a very common phrase, particularly for myself. I've heard it my whole life. Growing up in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia and just going to church. There's a whole feast day of Christ the King, and there's Christ the King churches just pretty much everywhere. They're all over the place. Want to also play a clip though that where someone else was discussing this just incredible phenomenon, and someone who it doesn't even really usually get into theological matters. And it's of course the great Jason Whitlock. Let's play that now.
They're trying to make proclaiming Jesus as king, they're trying to make it illegal. They're trying to smear that whole deal to where people can't say it. Oh, when Jack Posobiec uses it, he's doing it for good reason. And we just included Jack Posobiec's tweet in there in a way to smear him, but we really weren't smearing him. Hey, Posobiec is right, because this comes from out of nowhere. And no one was talking Christ is King, and now all of a sudden the Daily Beast has a story, and these people have to be expelled, and the National Contagion Resource Institute, something invented in 2018, they've now, Christ is King, boy, on Elon's X platform, man, when it's used, it's done to slur the Jews. This is a Psyop.
Complete Psyop. Complete and utter Psyop. So going after people like me, going after Joe Rogan, who I don't think even uses the phrase, going after Candace Owens, who recently converted to Catholicism, and just go. And here's the whole thing, right? Here's the whole thing. And guys, if you have that image where that report, this is what I really want to get into. That image where it shows my tweets, just saying it like I do every single morning, like I pray my rosary every single morning, and just put that up on the screen so people can see this report. The National Contagion Institute, or the contagion of Christ is King, the contagion of the phrase. What sort of people would want you to not say that phrase? What sort of people would want to work to, I don't know, lay the foundation for this specific set of words, this specific set of it's a collection of letters, it's a collection of words, but we're going to track these words and we're going to label them, and we're going to conduct social media network analysis to find out the 5GW warfare network of all the people who are saying this thing. Well, I'll tell you what's going on. They're laying the framework for this to be declared an anti-Semitic hate speech phrase. And by the way, this is all being done in the same context of people who are getting deported on the phrase, on the ideation of them being anti-Semitic. But they will also point out that, okay, in that situation, here's an individual who was directly supporting a terrorist group. And by the way, I'm all for deporting foreign subversives. I have no problem whatsoever with deporting foreign subversives. In fact, I have a list. Tom Homan, Secretary Noem, more than happy to get that to you, Kash Patel, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what it comes down to. This is a Longhouse style attack. It is woke scolding. Think of it. Writing lists, labeling, trying to get people to, think about the phraseology. But here's the thing. Who puts you in charge of determining what people mean when they use a phrase? And why are you specifically targeting a phrase like Christ is King? If you have a problem with someone, say you have a problem with them. And I think I'm very disappointed. I'm just going to say it. I'm very disappointed to see Dr. Jordan Peterson's name on this. I'm very disappointed. That's a guy that we've all looked up to for so many years. We've supported for so many years. And to see his name on something like this is I just find it personally very disappointing for a guy that I've always supported, for a guy that, I've gone to tours, I've got the books, very disappointed. And when you see stuff like this, that's why we have the phrase, the woke light. You have people that are acting like wokies, using woke tactics to label, to build committees, to do studies, because they have decided that they can determine that they know what Jack Posobiec means when he uses a phrase, and they know what Candace Owens means when she uses a phrase. No, this is about power. This is about them having power over you, over power over your speech, over power over your thoughts, and claiming that they have the ability to determine who's allowed to say Christ is King and who is not. And I reject that. I reject it completely, and I reject it wholeheartedly on principle at the very first look, in the very first instance. From that instance on, no. You do not get to say who is allowed to say Christ is King, because that is the truth. You do not have a monopoly on determining who is allowed to tell the truth. Look, you don't get to make that call. You don't get to do that. That's what freedom of speech is all about. You don't get to make that call. If you have a problem with a phrase, if you have a problem with someone, then just say it. But this kind of stuff, it's very disappointing. It's extremely disappointing. And in fact, when it comes down to it, I only have 3 words to say in response. Christ is King.